So eBay just released their 2023 winter seller update, which also was the announcement that they will be increasing fees. So we thought that would be a really good episode to do, talk about what fees are going to be increasing, and then should you be worried as a reseller?
Yeah, I think there's been a little bit of talk, a little chatter on, Instagram and the Facebook groups and all that stuff about, this happens every so often, like eBay, Amazon, people change, the shipping increases, the fees change for different platforms. This is just kind of like one of those things that you have to kind of anticipate and just know is going to happen eventually. It's, not the end of the world. Spoiler alert. It's not the end of the world. And it's something that you have to keep in mind. Of course, it's something that you have to take into consideration when you're selling on these platforms, but it's not, they have not increased it to the point where it's going to put people out of business. It's not like an earth shattering thing. So we're going to, like Liz said, explain what increased, what is not increasing, and some ideas that we have, in addition to, should you be worried about them? Should you not be worried about them? How to incorporate the fees and, just some thoughts that we have on this topic.
Yeah. So on February 15th, which is coming up, the final value fee will be increasing in some categories, but eBay said the max increase you'll see is 0.35%. And there's going to be some categories where they're not even going to increase the fees, such as jewelry and watches, and then women's bags and handbags. So one thing I did notice was the final value fee change, it changed or increased based on what kind of store you have. Mm-hmm. So one of the increases was for final value fees for sellers without a store, and then sellers with a starter store. And then there were different fee increases for sellers with a basic store or above store subscriptions. So it does depend on what store you have. I have a basic store, so that will be way different than somebody who doesn't have a store or has the starter store. All right, so most of the final value fees go up, 0.35%. Some of them go down, some of them go up a little bit. So really check that out because it kind of depends on what you end up selling. Like I think a bulk of resellers usually do like clothing and shoes and things like that, which is going up. We'll link the article down below to the final value fee changes, and you can kind of check it over. But it is a good thing as a reseller, whether you're part-time or full-time, to be checking on these updates, because even if it's just a small percentage, that's going to be more money that's coming out of your pocket, and you need to factor in for that. So another thing that I noticed that they were going to do, if a buyer cancels before you ship the item, they're expanding the pre-order fee credit. When somebody returns for the following reasons, they ordered by mistake, they don't like it, changed their mind, doesn't fit, found a better price, they're going to credit the 30-cent order fee. So that's pretty nice that eBay's going to do that. And then another thing that I really like, so if you're going to do an auction and you're going to schedule the auction, or maybe you have a draft of a bunch of eBay listings and you're going to schedule them, they used to charge you 10 cents, 25 cents per listing. No, it was just 10 cents. So they used to charge you 10 cents to schedule a listing. And if you do the fixed price listings, good till canceled, they're actually going to be removing that fee starting on the 15th. So I think that is a huge plus for sellers, especially part-time sellers who don't have the daily time to be listing every single day. So if you aren't taking advantage of scheduling your listings, that's going to be a huge thing for you. Make sure that you're doing that. All right. So I want to give everyone an example. So what I found is by looking at some of the increases, most of them for us would increase from 12% to 12.35%. So let's say you sold an item for $40. At 12%, the final value fee would be $4.80 plus the 30 cents. If it goes up to 12.35, it goes from $4.80 to $4.94. So it's an increase of 14 cents. So just to kind of give you an idea of the increase of fees and what that looks like in a dollar amount. We're going to share some of our thoughts on eBay increasing the fees, but I feel like the first thing that comes to my mind is this is not something that I'm shocked about. I honestly expect every single year for these big, giant platforms to raise their fees. It's the beginning of the year. They have the opportunity to raise the fee structure. It's similar to other things, gas has increased, eggs have increased. It's not just in the reselling world. And I think a lot of sellers see the increase and they don't really look at the breakdown of it. And they just think, oh, well, they just get the negative reaction as soon as they hear that eBay's raising their fees. Oh, look at eBay. They're greedy and they're trying to take more money. And I still think eBay has slightly lower fees than Amazon, at least. I mean, I would love to pay 12.35% fees. Instead, on Amazon, when we're selling, we're paying around 30%. So to me, I guess because I have that mindset of, well, that's way cheaper than Amazon, I just don't think these fee increases are that big of a deal.
Yeah, I think, for sellers that have been on eBay for a long time, obviously, like year after year, like if the fees increase, like, no one wants to be paying more in fees, obviously. And, like you said in your example, 14 cents for your increase, like it's not huge. It's not going to put you out of business, but it does add up. It does add up the more items that you sell, obviously. So it is something that you have to take into account. So, raise your prices a little bit to offset, the fees and shipping and what, like you have to have a business mindset. So if you're going to survive, you have to have a business mindset. Everyone else is increasing their prices, increasing their fees. You kind of have to like go with that as well. Like you kind of have to raise your prices a little bit in order to like stay afloat. That's just how it is. It's just how it works. So like Liz said, it's not uncommon. We should kind of like be aware that this is going to happen from time to time, just like the shipping increases. We've come to expect that every single year. And my favorite thing is like, especially, I don't really know why I'm in like some of the Facebook groups, like some of the reselling Facebook groups. They drive me absolutely nuts, except for ours. Like I love ours, but like some of the other ones, especially like some of the big ones, they drive me crazy, but I'm still in them. It's like, it's like a train wreck. You kind of can't look away. My favorite thing is like when people are like, oh, here goes Feebay again, Feebay this, Feebay that. Like, okay, yeah, maybe like, you're not happy about the, 0.35% increase and that's okay. But like you mentioned before, they're still so much lower than a lot of these other platforms. Just to sell something on Poshmark is like a 20%, you know what I mean? Unless it's under, unless it's under $15 or $10, something like that, like it's a 20% fee. That's kind of a lot. And they don't even have a customer service phone number. You can't get a hold of anyone. You can't call them at all. So I think as far as like eBay fees go and like the value that you get for the fees that you're paying, like it's really not that bad. It's really not like the end of the world. They give us a lot of things in exchange for those fees. Like you can call them, you can do the chat, like they're pretty responsive. They give us a lot of different features. So I think, in relation to other platforms, it's really not the end of the world. It's not, something to lose our heads over. So let's just look at the facts, think about it from a business standpoint and, make the changes that are necessary so that it won't affect our business in like a negative way.
Yeah. And I like that you mention it is a business. And whether you do part-time reselling, full-time reselling, you need to treat it like a business. So if you know that eBay is going to, on the 15th, start increasing some of the categories that you consistently sell in, you might want to look on how to work this increase in somewhere else. Where in your business can you account for this increase? So maybe you're going to charge more for shipping. Maybe you're going to promote your items at a lower percentage. You could always work at getting your cost of goods lower. Maybe you're going to start using a credit card that gets points that you can get cash back, and then you're lowering your cost of goods. Maybe you're going to start using coupons. I know when we go to Goodwill, if we spend over $20, we have a 20% off coupon we can use. If you donate to Savers out here, you can get a 20% off coupon. So there's ways that you can decrease things on the other end because you know that you're going to have that increase in fees. In previous episodes, you've shared multiple ways of how you try to get your cost of goods. What were some of those apps that you've used?
Yeah. So like receipt scanning apps like Fetch, Upside for saving money on your gas. Like there's just so many ways. I really like what you're saying. Like you can decrease the amount of money that you're spending on your goods, or, like the money that you're spending to travel to these places to shop for your inventory. So you just really have to put in a little bit of effort and think outside the box, get a little creative to see where you can reduce your costs in order to make up for the fees that we honestly have no control of. Like, what are we going to do? Leave eBay? Of course not. Of course we're not. They're the largest selling platform outside of Amazon. So we're in it, we're in it. We got to figure it out.
Yeah. And I'm going to say something that might be a little abrasive. If this small increase in fees is going to affect your business, you might want to take a hard look at your numbers and figure out why you don't have room for this increase. If you don't have that extra 14 cents for that $40 item, you're not buying the right items. You're not buying the right items. You're not selling the right items, and you're not running your reselling business like a business.
Yeah, that 14 cents is going to hurt a lot if your profit on a $40 item is $5 versus, $30. So going back and listening to some of the episodes on sourcing and sourcing criteria and all that stuff would be really, really helpful if you feel like the small increase is really going to affect your business in a really negative way. There's bigger issues at play than the fees increasing. Do we need to, like we said, we have to take it into account. You have to know that it's increasing and adjust your business. And yes, it is an increase. We're not saying just to ignore it, but like Liz said, if it's going to impact you in that big of a negative way, then there's other things outside of the fees that you really need to take a hard look at. So, this is another kind of like hard pill to swallow, but, we can complain about it, or we can just kind of change with the changes and make adjustments as we need to keep on keeping on. There's only so much that we can do. Like we don't have control over certain things like eBay does because they're a large company, a large corporation, but we do have control over our actions and our businesses that we run day to day. So the only thing that we can do is take control over what we have control over and make those changes to adjust our businesses to keep selling and keep being successful. We can do nothing about eBay increasing their fees and other platforms increasing their fees and shipping changes and all this stuff. We can't change it, but we can change our business, and hopefully those changes are going to keep us successful and keep us selling for many more years. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Paycheck to Daycheck Reselling Podcast.
Anything we mentioned in this episode will be linked down below in the show notes or description down below.
Be sure to share this episode with anyone you think it will help, and follow us on social media at P2D Podcast.
Thanks again for listening. Keep working towards that Daycheck.